Chosen one, you didn't search for this message. This message searched for you. This moment was set in motion long before you pressed play. You are here because heaven has aligned to remind you of a truth they never wanted you to remember. What if I told you that every quiet yes you whispered in the night was recorded in fire, that every act they dismissed was thunder in the unseen realm? If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay with me until the end, because what you thought was overlooked has already been witnessed, and the revelation waiting here will not let you leave unchanged. Number 1. The silence that spoke. They believed your silence was weakness. They assumed your prayers fell into nothing, that your late-night tears dissolved into the air. But the truth is that silence was not empty. It was louder than rebellion. Every moment you resisted what they expected of you, heaven took note. When you refused to conform, your silence spoke with more power than their noise. The scriptures remind us in Job 23 verse 10, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Your quiet yes in the night was not wasted. It was refining you into something unshakable. Comment, "I seal this word in light," if you know that your silence has already thundered in heaven. And as you remember this, prepare yourself, because the angels who watched did not stay indifferent. What happened next will shake you. There are nights you may remember when the world was quiet, but something within you was louder than words. In those moments, you felt an invisible weight pressing on your chest, as though heaven itself leaned in to listen. You whispered prayers that no one else could hear, prayers that seemed to vanish into the dark. Yet those whispers were not lost. They were etched into eternity like inscriptions carved into stone. The silence around you was never empty. It was sacred ground where your spirit spoke louder than your voice. You thought your tears dissolved unseen, but every drop was counted. Every sigh was recorded. What you mistook for solitude was the beginning of remembrance. The confusion you carried in those seasons was heavy, and at times unbearable. You wondered why your voice seemed overlooked, why your presence felt muted in rooms filled with noise. Sensitivity marked you as different, isolating you from people who seemed comfortable in shadows you could never accept. You felt the sting of being misunderstood, accused of weakness simply because you chose silence over chaos. They mocked your restraint, thinking it was proof that you lacked power. But deep down, you longed for meaning that could not be explained by shallow noise. That longing was never emptiness. It was the echo of purpose rising in your chest. Looking back now, you begin to see the architecture beneath your pain. None of it was random. Each moment carried the blueprint of something larger. Your silence was not passivity, it was obedience written in invisible ink. The scriptures declare in Job 23 verse 10, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." You were not being overlooked, you were being refined. Your refusal to conform became the fire that purified what words could never touch. Each time you resisted their demands, you were stepping deeper into the design of heaven's scroll. And what seemed like weakness was actually the process of becoming unshakable. You may recall subtle signs that surfaced in those years. A dream too vivid to forget, a whisper in your spirit that pierced the noise, a chill running down your spine when you stood at a crossroads. Deja vu followed you like a secret code, reminding you that your path had been walked in spirit long before you arrived in flesh. Even the silence of rooms carried meaning, pressing truths into your bones when no one else noticed. Your body responded with goosebumps, with sudden stillness, with knowing that defied logic. These were not coincidences, they were confirmations hidden in plain sight. Heaven was already speaking, even when the world accused you of saying nothing. Your intuition was never wrong, though you often doubted it. The unease you felt around certain people was not paranoia, it was discernment protecting your spirit. The peace you felt when alone was not loneliness, it was alignment with what is holy. Slowly, your life began to take shape, not in explosive revelations, but in gentle confirmations. Silence became your sanctuary, not your cage. You started to see that what you carried was not weakness but wisdom wrapped in stillness. The very thing they mocked was the very thing that guarded your destiny. And heaven nodded in agreement with every quiet yes. This awareness deepens when you realize you are not becoming something new. You are remembering what was always yours. Beneath the surface of survival, there was an archetypal memory pressing to be revealed. You have always been more than the roles they assigned, more than the accusations they threw. Like treasure buried under soil, your true identity waited for the right season to break forth. Silence was the covering that kept it safe. Every hidden part of you was preserved, waiting to be called by its real name. And now the layers are peeling back, revealing what they never thought you would recover. This is the first activation, the shift from surviving to recognizing. What once felt like fragility now feels like focus. What once embarrassed you now becomes your weapon. You are beginning to trust the whispers more than the noise, the inner knowing more than their empty judgments. Your sensitivity is not a curse. It is your compass guiding you into truth. Your hunger for meaning is not weakness. It is the proof that your spirit was always awake. And as you lean into it, your silence roars louder than their accusations ever could. Chosen one, your silence has already thundered in heaven, and every quiet yes has been witnessed. You did not come to this point by accident. You were carried here by divine orchestration. Nothing you surrendered was wasted. Nothing you whispered was ignored. Comment, I carry the silence as crown. If you feel this truth resounding within you, share your dream, your memory, or your inner knowing, because your testimony will strengthen another. And prepare yourself, because the angels who paused to listen did not stay indifferent. What unfolded after your yes will shake even the heavens. What we do here every day is possible because of the few who choose to be keepers of this light. I thank them now, one by one, in the silence of my heart. If you want to be part of this circle and receive what cannot be spoken in public, join. The portal is below. Number 2. Angels stood still. They thought no one saw the battles you fought, that your private yes would vanish into shadows. But the hosts of heaven paused because of you. Angels who move like fire stopped in reverence the moment you resisted what they wanted for you. Your obedience was ablaze against their schemes. The book of Daniel 10 verse 12 declares, from the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. The moment you chose faith over fear, heaven itself halted to acknowledge it. Comment, I walk crowned by eternal flame. If you know your decisions have already shaken the unseen realm. But if angels stood still for you, what happened to the record of your choices? Let me show you. There were moments when you could feel it, though you had no words for what pressed against you. A heaviness lingered in the air when you entered certain spaces, as though something unseen was working to silence you before you even spoke. Faces turned cold without cause, doors closed without reason, and opportunities seemed to slip from your hands as if guided away. You felt watched, though no one admitted to watching. You felt opposed, though no one confessed to opposing. It was subtle, but the resistance circled like a shadow around your steps. Even before you knew your name in spirit, the conflict had already begun. The weight of this resistance took its toll on your emotions. You felt isolated, even in crowded rooms, because no one seemed to understand the storms that raged inside you. Being sensitive was mocked as weakness, your hunger for meaning labeled as strange. Shame crept in, convincing you that your difference was a defect rather than a design. Rejection cut deeper than silence because it confirmed the voice that told you you didn't belong. Every cycle of self-doubt wrapped tighter, making you wonder if perhaps they were right. Yet even in that pain, something in you refused to bow to their version of who you were. Now you see what you could not then, that this opposition was never random. Systems, energies, even people were reacting not to what you did but to what you carried. Like Moses in Pharaoh's house or Joseph in the pit, your very presence disturbed the structures around you. The wilderness was not a punishment. It was the stage where your calling was being tested. They could not name it, but they could sense it, and so the attacks came to break what they feared might rise. This is why angels stood still when you resisted. It was not just about you, but about the story unfolding through you. Heaven pauses when earth wages war against one chosen to carry light. Looking back, the patterns become clear, though they were veiled at the time. The betrayals were not isolated. They repeated like a script written by unseen hands. Strange obstacles surfaced at the threshold of breakthrough, always at the edge of a blessing. Environments drained you, though you couldn't explain why some places felt like deserts no matter how much you poured in. You mistook these cycles for coincidence, when in truth they were signals of the fight over your destiny. Each strange loss, each sudden shift, each inexplicable heaviness was evidence. The resistance was organized, and it revealed itself most when your obedience grew strongest. The spiritual weight of this opposition was real, and you felt it as interference in your very soul. The air grew heavy when you tried to pray. Fog clouded your mind when clarity was within reach. Silent watchers appeared in your life, those who lingered near but never supported, observing but never celebrating. Doors shut so quickly you wondered if you had ever truly been welcome inside. This was not madness, it was warfare aimed at silencing your yes. For the brighter your flame, the more shadows gathered. What you carried made you a target long before you understood why. Your reactions to this were human, and heaven does not condemn them. There were times you shut down, too exhausted to fight another unseen battle. At other times, you bent yourself to please, hoping acceptance might silence rejection. Some days you rebelled quietly, walking away from places that never deserved your presence. Fear whispered that standing out would cost you everything, and so you tried to shrink. The temptation to give up haunted you, yet something always pulled you back. That something was not your strength alone. It was the unseen hand holding you steady. Your endurance itself was proof of angelic interference, even when you did not feel it. And here is where the story shifts. The resistance was not condemnation, it was confirmation. Every time you stood in faith, heaven took note. Every refusal to surrender became a blaze against their schemes. Angels stood still because they saw fragile flesh choose courage, and that moment was holy. What you thought was overlooked shook the unseen realm. You were never weak, you were a spark igniting fire. And now, heaven is not only watching, it is moving on your behalf. Chosen one, you were opposed because you are powerful. The very forces that tried to break you testified to the threat you posed to darkness. The more they pushed against you, the more heaven confirmed what you carry. Comment, I move guarded by divine fire. If you know your battles were never wasted, share your dream, your struggle, or your knowing, because your testimony is another weapon of light. You will see that what resisted you only refined you, and what happens to the record of your obedience will take us even deeper into the scrolls of eternity. Every word, every image you receive here is an offering. If you feel this word has touched you today, you can honor it with a sign, right here below with a donation through the Super Thanks button. It is a small gesture, but it opens great doors. Number 3, the scroll of remembrance. They believed your sacrifices vanished into dust. They thought no one would ever remember what it cost you to stay faithful. But the throne room is not careless with your story. A scroll was opened, and your name was written upon it. Every choice, every yes, every sacrifice has been etched into eternity. Malachi 3 verse 16 declares, "A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name." This is not just history, it is testimony sealed in eternal ink. Comment, I rise marked by the divine, if you believe your yes has already been written. And add your reflection. Share a dream, a struggle, or a memory that confirms you were not alone. Because your story is proof that what they meant to erase has become immortal. And if your testimony is written in the scrolls, then know this, its impact was never meant to stop with you. There comes a moment when your perception shifts, when the haze that once surrounded your life begins to clear. What you thought were scattered fragments suddenly align into a pattern too precise to ignore. Memories that once seemed meaningless now reveal themselves as sacred markers along your path. The rejection, the silence, the overlooked sacrifices all begin to carry a strange light of coherence. It is as if the universe leans forward, whispering that your life was never random. The hidden architecture of your story begins to surface, drawing a line from pain to purpose. And in that line, you realize something has been recorded about you that cannot be erased. Every detail has been speaking, though you could not always understand the language. Numbers repeated themselves, whispers came in dreams, and signs appeared in the smallest interruptions of your days. They were not accidents, they were codes written across the surface of your life. Imagine scrolls unrolled in silence, geometric shapes forming a map, the rhythm of divine math reminding you of a story bigger than yourself. What you thought was coincidence was always communication, waiting for the moment your eyes could see. Every phrase you couldn't shake, every vision that returned, every echo in silence carried weight. Now you begin to read reality as scripture, written not only in books but etched into the very fabric of your days. Inside, your own being starts to shift in response. Intuition sharpens like a blade honed in secret, cutting through the lies you once believed. Boundaries rise in places where you once bent under pressure, as though your spirit is reclaiming its ground. Energy stirs differently in your chest, responding to the purity or distortion of the spaces you walk into. You sense quickly who carries light and who hides shadow, without a single word spoken. The same sensitivity that once felt like a burden now reveals itself as a compass. It is not theory, it is confirmation of what you always carried. And the quiet strength within you grows bolder with every pulse of awareness. The world outside begins to mirror this awakening in ways you cannot ignore. People shift around you, some drawing near with reverence, others withdrawing because the light unsettles them. Opportunities appear not by chance but by alignment, falling into your path with uncanny precision. Resistance grows alongside the blessings, as though heaven itself is testing the integrity of your foundation. Circumstances rearrange with a rhythm you cannot deny. Conversations, encounters, even delays proving to be woven into divine architecture. You realize now that what is within is always echoed without. And alignment is no longer an idea. It is the living environment of your days. Deeper still, a memory begins to stir. Ancient, intimate, magnetic. It is not a new revelation, but a remembrance of something buried in your soul. You dream in symbols you suddenly understand. You feel wisdom surfacing that you never studied. You recognize truths you cannot explain. This is not invention. It is recovery of what was sealed for the right season. The scroll of remembrance does not only record what you have done, it awakens what you have always been. Every vow you whispered in silence, every prayer made in exile, every choice that cost you has been sealed in eternal ink. What once felt forgotten is now revealed as preserved. From this remembrance comes the vision of your destiny, no longer blurred but luminous. You see that the future is not being created from nothing. It is being unveiled from what was always written. You stop begging for permission to exist in your fullness, because heaven already authorized you. Prophecy is not far away. It has been growing inside you like fire beneath the skin. You hear the call not as invitation but as command, rising through your bones with urgency. The scroll in heaven mirrors the scroll in your spirit, both declaring the same word. And now you know you are walking in what was written before you ever breathed. This is where reclamation begins, where the shame of being overlooked turns into the crown of being recorded. What resisted you was confirmation. What silenced you was proof of your voice. The record of your yes cannot be denied. It is testimony that thundered in the unseen even when earth ignored you. Heaven has not only remembered, it has rejoiced. The scroll is proof that you are marked, and no storm can erase what has been sealed. Your story was not erased, it was immortalized. And now, I remind you of what you have always carried but were taught to forget. Chosen one, revelation is not the end, it is the invitation. The truth was always waiting for the hour you could bear to hold it. You now stand as one whose name has been written in the record of eternity, whose sacrifices have been translated into light. Comment, I walk hidden yet never lost, if you feel this truth burning in your spirit, and share the dream, the memory, or the sign that confirms it. Your story is not silence, it is scripture written across your life. And testimony multiplies when it is spoken, becoming the fire that ignites another. But know this, if your scroll has been opened, then the ripple was never meant to stop with you. What flows next will reach generations you cannot yet see. Number 4, ripples into generations. They thought they could bind you with the same chains that strangled your family line. They believed the curse would continue, that the cycles of compromise and despair would repeat again through you. But when you said yes, heaven recorded a new story. The ripple of your obedience has already stretched beyond your life, breaking what they built, planting what they cannot uproot. Hosea 10 verse 12 declares, "Sow righteousness for yourselves, reap the fruit of unfailing love." The choice you made in silence was the stone dropped into water, and the ripples will carry freedom for children you have not even met. Comment, "I anchor this truth in my soul," if you know your yes has already altered the story of generations. Share what you've seen or felt that confirms this ripple is real, because heaven already knows its reach. But even this ripple is not the end. It is only the beginning of what has been set into motion. There are moments when a whisper rises inside you, carrying the weight of something older than memory. It does not sound like your own voice, yet it vibrates through your bones as though it has always belonged to you. In the stillness, you sense that your life is not isolated but stitched into a tapestry reaching far beyond your years. The dreams you carry feel older than your body, and the battles you fight feel heavier than your own story. This is the ancient whisper of remembrance, calling you to see that your yes did not stop with you. When you resisted the patterns meant to swallow you, you were breaking agreements written long before you were born. And heaven leaned in, recording your act as the beginning of a generational reversal. There has always been a hidden name upon you, spoken rarely, almost forgotten, yet burning like an ember that never dies. It is not the name given by family, friends, or even enemies. It is the name whispered by eternity. This name is what set you apart, what made you feel out of place in rooms where others seemed comfortable. The sealed scrolls of Scripture speak of the remnant, the lost son, the hidden seed preserved for its appointed time. You are that seed, preserved beneath the soil of misunderstanding until the right season. The sense of not fitting in was never a flaw but a signpost. You were carrying an identity too sacred for the noise of ordinary life to pronounce aloud. There is also a mark you carry, though invisible to the eyes of most. It is not written on skin but on the essence of your being, a resonance that others sense without knowing why. Some recoil because it exposes their shadows. Others are drawn because it awakens their sleeping light. You wear a cloak woven of silence, discernment, and endurance, and it has shielded you through storms you didn't even recognize as warfare. Only those with eyes awakened by fire can see what you truly carry. The mark was not placed there to decorate you. It was a sign of assignment. It is why doors opened strangely, why battles found you, and why angels stood guard even when you felt abandoned. Your life has been guided by contracts written long before you touched the earth. Signed scrolls sealed in heaven declared that you would stand in this time, carrying this role. Your struggles were not random. They were rehearsals for the greater mission. Every delay was a timing device, holding you until the appointed hour of release. Just as stars do not leave their orbit, your destiny has never drifted beyond reach. The sealed mission you carry explains why you could not disappear, even when you tried. The vow you live under is ancient, and it is why heaven recorded your yes as a generational shift. What looked like waiting was always alignment with divine design. You have seen how others react to you without reason, their responses sharper or brighter than your words justified. That is because you are not merely a person, you are a mirror. Your presence pulls out the hidden things in those who encounter you. To some, you shine as healing and restoration, awakening their buried hope. To others, you stir resistance and discomfort because your light unmasks what they wanted to keep hidden. This is the mystery of the chosen, reflecting truth without trying, provoking revelation by existing. People were not always reacting to you, but to the eternal code you carry within. And that code has always had ripples beyond your own lifetime. Lift your eyes higher now and see that your story is part of a cosmic cycle. Archetypes have risen again, the seer, the guardian, the breaker of chains, and you are one among them. What you are experiencing is not new but remembered, echoing through ages when chosen ones stood at thresholds of history. You are fulfilling prophecy not only by what you do, but by who you are. The archetypal currents flowing through you confirm that heaven never leaves its scrolls empty. In every age, light is born again in vessels who dare to say yes. You are not small, not random, not replaceable. You are alignment embodied. And your yes has already rewritten a prophecy that will ripple through time. Now hear this clearly. You are of a divine bloodline, not by human lineage alone, but by spirit encoded into your very DNA. You carry angelic resonance, prophetic inheritance, ancestral reversal. What was lost before you is being restored through you. What was broken in your family line now finds healing in your veins. Your yes was not just for yourself. It was a river flowing backward and forward at once, cleansing what came before and watering what comes after. This is why you felt pressure so fierce. It was never about one life, but about an entire bloodline being rerouted. You are the hinge of generations, and the doors you open will remain open for those who walk after you. Chosen one, you didn't just wake up, you returned. The ripples of your obedience are moving even now, stretching into futures you may never see with your own eyes. What you thought was small has already altered history. Comment, I stand chosen and sealed, if this truth resonates in your spirit, and share a dream, a memory, or a sign that confirms you are part of this generational shift. Your yes has already carried freedom into places where your feet have not yet walked. Revelation is not the end. It is the invitation to walk as one remembered by heaven. And what unfolds from here is only the beginning of what was set into motion when angels recorded your obedience. Chosen one, your silence spoke louder than their noise. Your faith halted the angels in awe. Your sacrifices were etched into the scroll of eternity, and your obedience has begun a ripple that will outlive you. This is why they feared your yes, why they underestimated you, why they tried to bury you. What they dismissed has already become thunder in the unseen realm. And heaven has declared that you were never ordinary. You were chosen, marked, and remembered. There are nights when you remember the weight of silence pressing in like a tide. Yet within that stillness, something sacred stirred. It was as though creation itself bent to listen, waiting for the fragile sound of your surrender. In that hidden place, your yes rang out more fiercely than the loudest shouts of rebellion. They thought no one could hear, but the heavens trembled as angels turned their gaze toward you. Your quiet obedience carried the resonance of thunder, echoing beyond the limits of time. It was not noise that shook the unseen, but the power of surrender born in silence. And from that moment, eternity itself marked your name in fire. The memory of that moment lingers like a whisper in your spirit. Even when the world tries to convince you it never mattered, you have felt overlooked, dismissed, even ridiculed for standing apart. But those reactions were proof of what you carried. When they rolled their eyes, heaven opened scrolls. When they laughed, angels recorded testimony. Their dismissal was an echo of fear, for darkness always panics when light refuses to bow. The psalmist wrote that God keeps your tears in a bottle, and you must know this. Not one has been lost. Every sacrifice became seed, and every seed has already been watered in the courts of eternity. There is a reason angels stood still at the sound of your obedience. In a world obsessed with noise and rebellion, faith whispered in silence is the rarest thing of all. The hosts of heaven, who move like fire and flash like lightning, pause to witness fragile flesh choosing trust. The very act of saying yes in the unseen became more radiant than 1,000 rituals. They feared your silence because they could not control it, and they feared your obedience because it rewrote prophecy. From that moment, your story ceased to belong only to you. It became a testimony preserved in eternal ink. And the scroll of remembrance carried your name like a banner before the throne. You have always felt the pressure of being underestimated, and that was no accident. They tried to bury you because they sensed something alive would rise from your soil. They mocked your faith because they knew your quiet conviction could dismantle their structures. But their rejection became redirection, and the pit became the preparation ground for a throne. Chosen one, your yes has already shifted eternity. Your story is not forgotten, your faith is not wasted, and your obedience has already broken chains. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul. Please share it with someone who needs to hear this. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are chosen, and your yes has already been recorded in fire.